In order to analyse these, we've got to understand the concept of Surah Rahman. So, imagine a circle. And this circle we call the Arsh. What's the Arsh?
Throne.
The throne. Now the throne is an expression of the ultimate creation of Allah. It's the largest space, which encompasses everything. Yeah? We've got the throne, and then we've got the kursi, and then within that is the rest of creation. Are you familiar with this? Yeah?
It's just funny because it almost took some to quantum.
Right, okay, right. Now, what does Allah say in the Quran? He says, Ar-Rahman ala al-Arsh istawa, that the All-Merciful is above the throne. He resides over the throne, yeah? So the idea here is that the Rahmaniyya, the quality, the attribute of God, which is Rahmah, compassion, empathy, mercy, surrounds the Arsh. Like a womb surrounds a child. Because we get the word Rahim, womb, from Rahmah. In a sense that it's provided, like what does the womb do? It provides for the baby, doesn't it? It encompasses it and protects it and provides for it and holds it. So Allah's Rahmah is holding the whole creation around the time. Does that make sense? Yeah? The sifa, the attribute of Allah's mercy, is absolute. Yeah. So obviously this is not matching the real reality of the Rahmah, because you can't build it, you can't put a circle around it, if that makes sense.
Sorry, I just thought the throne and the kursi were the same.
No, they're not. Because a kursi doesn't mean a chair, it means a footstool. When a king sits on his throne, he likes to put his feet on this. What do we call it? A footstool, don't we? A footstool. That's basically. So what it is it's a expression of the different stages of creation that encompass everything. Yeah. The reality of those things. It's not a literal throne, and it's not a literal footstool. It's an expression of kingship, of power and dominance and sovereignty.
Would you say it's a metaphor?
Well, we leave it to Allah how it is. Because when we say metaphor, then we're saying it doesn't mean...
A symbolic to some sort of...
To some degree, but we have to say that in the end, it's something Allah's created, and we leave the knowledge to Allah. Okay? But we can definitely say it alludes to that. Okay? Are you with me? Because now, we're going to go in now. Ready? So, the first verse of this chapter, what does he say? Allah, Ar-Rahman. How do we translate that? The most the all-encompassing merciful one. He encompasses everything. Now, but the strange thing that confuses us here is this isn't a sentence, is it? Ar-Rahman, the all-merciful. You're thinking, and? So where's the sentence? Some will say, and both are valid, that this is a sentence with ellipsis in it. There's something missing, which is this is the All-Merciful. This is being removed to create dramatic impact. So I come into the room and I say Muqaddam, like and he comes in with his boxing gear on. It's a dramatic. It's like what would I say? It's a linguistic device to create dramatic impact to excite the audience. Muqaddam, and he comes in, to his fanfare. Is that clear? That's a linguistic device there. Ar-Rahman. Now, some scholars say no. Ar-Rahman. Now, listen to me very carefully. Ar-Rahman is a subject. What's it got on it? What state's it in? Dhamma state. And the next verse is the news. And the news here, Allama al-Quran, is a sentence. What type of sentence is it? Verbal sentence, because it starts with a verb. So this is a sentence. This is the sentence which is the news. So and we translate it as Ar-Rahman. What's Allama? Do you see we've got 3 consecutive vowels? Do we see 3 consecutive vowels there? So verb in the past, in the third person, masculine, singular. Allama. And Quran, what's it got on the end of it? Fatha. So we know that Quran is what?
Clarify.
The object of the verb. So he
He
taught the Quran. Who taught the Quran?
He did.
The most merciful. So it's got a pronoun in it referring back to the main subject. So that's a noun sentence. Go on, Usma. It's implicit in the pronoun. Because when I say allama, we say he taught.
Yes.
So there's an implicit pronoun there, yeah?
On the verb, you said the 3 consecutive vowels. What's the meaning of the other? What's the significance?
Of?
The new.
The
shidda.
Yeah.
Don't go there yet.
Okay.
No. This is a different form. We're not going to study that in this course. But you can appreciate that it's a verb in the past, can't you? He taught. Now what's so strange here is it doesn't mention who he taught. Do you see that? Usually, I teach Suhaib Arabic. If I just say I teach Arabic, you're then curious about who's being taught that. Yeah? And now he's going to bring that in for dramatic impact. That implicitly he's going to mention who he teaches. What's the next one? Now, what's Quran mean first? What's it mean?
Recital.
The ultimate recitation. The alif and noon gives extra emphasis. Do you remember we said that? Alif and noon brings oomph. Quran. So the ultimate recitation. Then what's the next verse say? Khalaqa. 3 consecutive vowels.
Yeah.
So what's it mean?
There's a verb, singular.
He created. What's insan got on the end of it?
No.
Fatah. So we know it's the object. So he created. So it's not the man created. It's he created
The man.
the man. Now notice literally the man. So we're using al as al of reference. Who would it be for referring to?
Mankind.
No, that would be genus though.
Yeah.
So that would be translated as he created
Mankind.
mankind, or the human. So it could refer to Adam. Or it could be, now one person said yesterday in the class, it could be al of perfection, the ultimate human being. Possibly. It could be al of inclusion, all human beings. Okay. Now let's just go with mankind for the sake of it, okay? He created man. Notice insan's got the alif and noon on it for emphasis. And it has got that sense of the human being. He created the Quran. He taught the Quran. But to teach, you've got to obviously have something you're teaching. And so it seems like there's an incoherent order here, doesn't there? You'd think it would be Ar-Rahman, Khalaq al-Insan, Allamahul, he taught him the Quran. No? Are you with me? Now scholars have different ways of looking at this. Some will say it means because the whole surah is talking about blessings. You know, throughout this surah, what have we got? فَبِأَيِّ آلَاءِ The easiest surah to read for the kids because it's like...
Actually, it's hard.
Yeah, no, it's hard in some respects, yeah. So, which of your Lord's blessings will you deny? So, it's the whole theme is blessings. Now, what's the ultimate blessing?
Life.
No, first is that Allah has a sifa of rahmah. The ultimate blessing, because the manifestation of creation is the act of creating the creation is a manifestation of Allah's empathy and compassion and mercy. That He decided to create the creation so they could come and recognise Him and know Him. That's a form, like for example, even in human existence, I'd say, Suhaib, you can come and live with me and you can be my mate. That's a form of empathy, isn't it? I accept him into my life and I want him to be part. That can be, someone feels honoured when that's, if as long as they like him. They say, oh wow, Idris thinks about me and he wants me to come and live with him. That's a form of I want you to get to know me. And that, we feel honoured because of that. And that's a reflection of our relationship with Allah. Allah decides, I'm going to bring you into being so you can come to know me. So the first blessing of Allah is that His attribute of compassion and mercy and connection. The next thing, what's the ultimate blessing after that? The Quran. What is the Quran? It's the speech of God. It's an attribute as well. It's the speech of God. So some have said here that why this is mentioned first. Well, first we could say because the Quran is the ultimate blessing. That's why it's mentioned first. And then the next blessing is human beings can come to know that speech of God. Okay? But there's another way of looking at it, is that the speech of God is what brings about creation. Because when Allah creates, what does He say? Be and it is. It's an expression of what the Christians call the logos, which is what the God of the words God, like the words God's speech.
The word was God.
Yes.
The word was
That.
God. Something like
So
that.
what's that mean? Obviously they tend to say it's Jesus Christ, but ultimately it's God's attribute that says be, and it is. So the first form of creation is God's speech. Well, God's speech is not creation, but God's speech brings in creation, which is the Rahmah. So that's what comes first. Then what's the ultimate manifestation of God's creation? Is a human being. It's the epitome of creation. So can you see the order now? So insan. And insan, one of the nuances of insan is to be manifest. Do you remember I said that? The human being, jinn is to be hidden, insan is to be manifest. So it's like the manifestation of Allah's like attribute of mercy. And obviously human beings have the ability to create. What I mean by that is if we create a phone, we've got to take pieces of matter and put them together. So it's not real creation. The closest form of creation we can get to, that's similar to Allah, it's not the same of course, where we take nothingness and bring something into it, is speech. Because it doesn't feel like matter, does it? You know, it's like I'm taking air and I'm producing sounds in order for you to understand something. So speech is the closest attribute we have to God in terms of creating. It's a very weird thing. Other animals, they do convey meaning through their speech, but very primitive meaning. Humans have a very sophisticated way of us conveying meaning to one another, haven't we? Then Allah says, what's the next bit he says? Allamahul bayan. 3 consecutive vowels. Do you see that? Then we have an attached pronoun. Do you see the attached pronoun? So he taught. Go on.
He taught it.
Now, what's the who referring to?
You, it, him, he.
Allah,
Him.
not Allah. The man.
Yeah, he taught it.
He taught him.
Him, yeah.
What did he teach him?
The bayan.
But the bayan. So we've got to look at bayan now. Do you see the bayan's got a fatha on it? This verb's got 2 objects: the attached pronoun and the bayan. So I teach you, object, Arabic. That's 2 objects, isn't it? I'm the subject, Muqaddam's the object, and I'm teaching him Arabic, which is another object. So bayan comes from bayana. Can you see that?
Yeah.
And bayana means to take things and separate them whereby they become coherent. So you know, if I give you a mishmash of all sorts of things and you've got to make sense of it, you'll say, oh well, the reds I'm going to put here, the blues I'm going to get here, in order to get some sort of order and system going, understanding of what's going on. Does that make sense? You know, if you see a sentence, you start breaking it down to understand it. Speech is that. What do? We've got this mixed idea. We've got all these, like for me, I'm teaching you Arabic. I've been teaching Arabic for 20 years. I do it intuitively when I read or write Arabic because I've got to that stage. But now I've got to separate it and simplify it for you guys to understand it. So that's what I'm doing. I'm doing bayan of Arabic. So speech is that, isn't it? I've got all these ideas in my head, and then I'm separating them into words and sentences so that you can actually understand what's going on. So bayan can have many translations. What have you got the translation there? Have you got a translation?
Eloquence.
Eloquence. Anyone got any other?
Utterance.
Utterance. So that's speech there, isn't it? It means literally elucidation, clarification, which is speech. When I'm speaking to you, I'm trying to clarify something, aren't I? It can mean clarity. It can mean meaning. Because when I'm trying to speak to you, I'm trying to get you to understand something, which is meaning. So ultimately, what are humans? They're meaning-making machines. We need meaning in our life. You know, if we don't understand what's going on in our life, how do we deal with it? We don't. We start falling to pieces if we don't have meaning. So this is the ultimate gift, and that goes back to the Quran, obviously. Now, the point I'm getting to. What's the point I'm getting to? That's the first theme of this surah. Yeah. And do you notice the endings? They all rhyme, don't they, to create that dramatic impact. But and when there's now there's going to be a shift. So ash-shamsu wal-qamaru bihusban. Okay. All the other sentences before were verbal sentences. Do you see that? Allama al-Quran, khalaqa al-insan, allamahu al-bayan. Now we go to a noun sentence. Yeah. Ash-shamsu. What's that mean?
Stars.
The sun.
Sorry.
Wal-qamaru.
The moon.
And the moon. B, what's B mean?
With.
Now we're going really literal here. With husbanin. Do you see it's got 2 kasras on it?
Yeah.
Why has it got 2 kasras?
Because of
Because of the B, the preposition. Husban, we haven't learnt this word, but we know what's a 3-letter root? Hasin ba. What word do we know from that?
Hisab.
Hisab. What's that mean? Hisab. Counting, calculation. So the sun and the moon are in accordance with, or are by what? A calculation. It's indefinite. The alif and nun make it emphatic, like a wondrous calculation. Like the sun and the moon have a relationship together, whereby their movements, we're trying to calculate them to understand things.
Why is alif nun dramatic? I thought.
Because hisab is the normal word for calculation.
Is alif nun always just for
only if it's extra. Otherwise, it could be part of the root.
Okay.
Yeah. It could be part of the root, but here it's not, and it comes to a dramatic impact when it's extra at the end. So it means and that it's indefinite creates wonder as well. So an amazing, unknowable, wondrous form of calculation. Because will we ever understand why the planets move in the way they do? We can come to some conclusion, but in the end it's a calculation and it's an assumption.
Yeah.
And have you noticed in history, man has always wondered about the movements of the planets and the sun and the planets, in order to understand maybe the future, haven't they? It's like they can see there's some relationship between us and those movements. So, and you see the shift. It's as if like it's saying man's been created for meaning, man's been created to understand God and his speech, and one way of doing that is to reflect on the nature. So it's shifted to how man can reach God. So it says the sun and the moon are in a certain way of calculation. What's the next bit? What's najmu? Now there's a bit of a debate about what najm means here. Let's go with star for that. And the star and the shajaru and the tree. Yes, Judan. We haven't seen this form. This is actually the present tense. But we know the root sajada. What's it mean?
Prostrate.
So that what do these two things do?
Prostrate.
They prostrate. Isn't it interesting how the first sentence is a noun sentence with no verb in it? It says the sun and the moon are in accordance with a calculation. And so a noun sentence when it's got no verb expresses something's fixed. This is like something that happened. It's like fixed calculation. The second one means they're in movement. Like the next sentence got a verb in it, hasn't it? What's also interesting is Allah's not mentioned in these verses. Do you know in the first one it's got Allah mentioned, is it? He taught the Quran, He created man, He taught him this. Now it's just talking about the creation with no creator, because we're having to ponder upon these things to arrive at the creator. And so it's just looking at them in their own essence.
So what does najm also mean?
I'm going to get to that. So do you see the gradation as well? Sun, moon, star, tree. It's as if you're moving down to where you're at. And so they're in prostration, i.e. they're now because it used a verb, it means they're in constant prostration regularly. They're submitting to God's laws.
Which is a verb?
Yes, Judan.
That's the verb.
Yeah.
And the top one is also a verb.
No, husban is a noun because it's got kasra state. It's got preposition before
but
it.
The bottom one is a noun sentence, isn't it?
It's a noun sentence because it starts with a noun, but it's got a verb in it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would the consecutive vowels be the fatha?
No. Don't look at that, Sham, about verbs, because we haven't got here yet. That's when it's a past verb. Yep. So don't worry too much because we haven't seen this. I've explained that. But yes, Judan means they prostrate continually, regularly. And what's that mean? Like the stars, they follow a system and they obey it, don't they? They're in prostration, they're in submission to God. Now someone said, what about the trees? How are they? Well, the way trees are, they're system. They don't stop growing and they don't stop producing. So this is prostration, how they prostrate. Now, this is the key point though. This is the last bit. What's the next word?
What's samat?
What's samat mean?
The sky.
Now, so it means all above. So if you notice, it's mentioned all the things in the sky, and then it's going to pan out and say the sky encompassment, and it's bringing us back to encompassment. Just like Allah's sifa, his attribute of mercy and compassion, surrounds the throne and the footstool and the whole of creation. Likewise, the sky, the heavens encompass the sun and the moon and the star and the tree. Now some have said that najm means here a foliage or shrubs that don't have a trunk. It's a vegetation that doesn't have a trunk. It's like bushes and so forth. And that is an opinion. I'm going with star just because and both are correct, but it makes sense to me in terms of the order of where we're going down. Now it says sama. What's so strange about sama here though?
It's got a long.
It's emphasised.
No, it's not got a dhamma on it. You'd expect it to have a dhamma, wouldn't you? Now let's have a look at it. وَالسَّمَاءَ رَفَعَهَا. Now, rafa'a, 3 consecutive vowels. So what's it? What is this? A verb in the past. He raised. Ha. What's ha? It. What's it referring to?
Sama.
Sama, because sama is one of those feminine words. Do you remember we did that?
Yeah, it's a reserved word.
Those 6 words that are feminine but don't show their sign.
Yeah.
So here is the first point where Allah is mentioning Himself. So He mentioned the sun and the moon and the stars and the trees. Didn't mention that He created them, did He?
No.
Now He goes to the sky that surrounds them all. He's the one that raised it. But what's so interesting here is, we say sama, this is the assumption about this sentence, but it's not, that sama should have a dhamma on it, and it will be the subject, and rafa'aha will be the news, which is a verb sentence in it, with a pronoun referring back to sama, the ha. So why is sama not got a dhamma on it? Because that would be the expectation. The reason for it is to create dramatic impact. Because you're expecting a dhamma and it hits you with a fatha. To think, whoa, because the sky, i.e. the heavens that encompass all these things, is something very different to all of these, and it's more wondrous. But what's so amazing here is, rafa'a in Arabic means to put something into a state of rafa'. Now we said, we've been studying this dhamma state, fatha state, kasra state. Later on we're going to study that dhamma state is actually called the state of rafa'. And so notice he says he put a fatha on it, and he said rafa'aha. It's like he's saying he put a dhamma on it, even though you're seeing a fatha. It's like a play on that word, because rafa'a means to put something in a dhamma state, but it's in a fatha state, and it's to show I think one of the ploys here is to catch you out, to say, don't think you understand everything. Like you expect things in creation, but Allah constantly puts a spanner in your expectations and throws you to realise He's the creator of everything, and He's the one in control. He's the one that makes things work, not your reason. Does that make sense? So the point that I brought this verse is to talk about that sama, because this is a ploy. We expect a dhamma with a fatha. But what I really wanted to show here is, first of all, that you can follow most of what I said, I think. Yeah, obviously there's new words here. But you can make sense, when I'm explaining it, you can make sense of most of it. And that's the whole point of this Arabic course, is so that when I go through a Quranic verse, you can actually follow with me. Because what I hope you appreciate here is that you can't translate most of this stuff, can you? It's impossible. But think how amazing, now you can appreciate and taste the Arabic language of what it does, how so much is conveyed, hidden, how much is hidden in the meanings of the words. Yeah. So thank you very much.